I'm sitting next to a trash can at my sister's wedding, at a kid's table with broken crayons. The wedding I paid $35,000 for. My name isn't on the seating chart, but it's on every contract. My sister called me bad for hair aesthetic. My mother told me to stop complaining, but the signature on those contracts is mine, and I'm about to use it. Before I show you how I turned a dream wedding into a lesson they'll never forget, please subscribe. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear if you've ever been treated like an ATM by your own family. 3 months ago, I was in my office managing logistics for a global summit. My screens were filled with vendor contracts and security protocols. This project would define the next 5 years of my career. Then my phone vibrated with the persistence that could only mean one thing. Brenda, my mother. Simone, you need to get to the venue immediately, she said without greeting. Kayla is having a meltdown about the linens. The coordinator won't listen to us. I closed my eyes, shifting gears from corporate strategy to family drama. I'm in the middle of a workday, Mom, I said, keeping my voice neutral. I can't just leave. It's your sister's wedding, Simone, she snapped. She's only going to do this once. Surely your little job can wait for an hour. My little job as a senior project manager paid for the roof over their heads. But facts never mattered to Brenda. I looked at the clock, calculating the time against the inevitable fallout if I refused. Fine, I said. I'll be there in 30 minutes. When I arrived at the venue, Kayla was sobbing on a vintage velvet sofa. She clutched a fabric swatch like it was a lifeline. They don't have the exact shade of blush, she wailed when she saw me. They only have dusty rose. It ruins everything, Simone. The aesthetic is dead. I looked at Sarah, the venue coordinator I'd worked with on 3 corporate galas. She looked desperately relieved to see me. Kayla, I said, my voice calm but authoritative. Dusty rose photographs better in this lighting anyway. It's a non-issue. Kayla sniffled, looking up with wide eyes that had gotten her out of trouble for 26 years. But the budget, my mother interjected, holding up a clipboard. With the upgrades Kayla wants for flowers and the band, we're looking at another $10,000. The room went silent. They both looked at me, the designated problem solver. The family ATM. We're already at $25,000, I noted, my mind running the spreadsheet automatically. Where is this extra money coming from? Well, Kayla said, twisting a diamond ring, likely bought on credit. We thought maybe you could handle it? As a wedding gift? You're the successful one, Mother added, stepping closer. It's your duty to look out for your sister. You know she can't afford this lifestyle yet. Yet, I repeated internally. Kayla had never held a job for longer than 6 months. She preferred chasing influencer status that paid in exposure rather than currency. I looked at the contracts spread across the table. Catering, venue, floral design, live band. If I paid as a private individual, the markup would be astronomical. But I saw an angle, a way to secure control, a habit from my professional life. I won't just hand you cash, I said, pulling a pen from my blazer pocket. I'll take over the contracts directly. I can apply my corporate discount if I sign as a primary client. Kayla's face lit up, the tears vanishing instantly. Really? Simone, you're the best. Does that mean I can get the imported orchids? It means I handle the vendors, I corrected. You get your wedding, but the paperwork has my name on it. That's the only way to get the 20% discount. Whatever, just sign it, Mother said, waving her hand dismissively. As long as it gets paid. I sat down and began signing document after document. Client, Simone Davis. Payer, Simone Davis. Liability holder, Simone Davis. I glanced at the clause regarding cancellation and force majeure. Standard boilerplate, but binding. My pen paused over the line. Why am I doing this? I asked myself silently. The answer came immediately. Because if they betray me again, I need the legal power to walk away. This was project manager instinct. Always have an exit strategy. Contracts can be weapons. I'm putting Dad down as the guarantor for any damages, I said, filling in the final line. Just the formality. Fine, Mother said, already turning back to the fabric swatches. Now about these napkins. I walked out of the venue an hour later, $35,000 poorer on paper, but holding the legal leash to the entire event. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, my department head and mentor. Just reviewed your proposal for the Summit security grid. Flawless logic. We need that kind of brain in the chaotic zone next week. I smiled, a genuine one this time. In my world, competence was currency. In their world, I was just the invisible wallet. That night, sitting in my apartment with a glass of wine I wasn't drinking, I opened my laptop. An old photo album I hadn't looked at in years. Digital scans of family pictures from before everything fell apart. One photo stopped me cold. I was 12 years old, standing at a science fair. First place ribbon pinned to my project board. Mom was beside me, her arm around my shoulders. Her face was lit up with genuine pride, no performance. My brilliant girl, she'd said that day, her voice thick with emotion. You're going to do incredible things. You have a mind that can change the world. That night, she had made my favorite dinner, lasagna and apple pie from scratch. She'd stayed up past midnight helping me refine my presentation. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. I stared at the photo, at the mother who used to believe in me. When did that woman disappear? When did I become just a bank account to her? I closed the laptop before I could find more memories that would make this harder. The week leading up to the wedding was a blur of microaggressions masked as family bonding. I spent my evenings answering Kayla's frantic texts about centerpieces. My days managing a crisis with our Singapore team. Friday afternoon, I was in a conference room presenting to a pharmaceutical CEO. Miss Davis, he said, standing to shake my hand. This is the most comprehensive risk mitigation plan I've seen in 20 years. You just saved us from a potential catastrophe. My team applauded as I packed up my materials. Marcus caught me in the hallway afterward. You're not just good, Simone, he said, his hand on my shoulder. You're irreplaceable. This company would collapse without you. My colleagues surrounded me near the elevators. Drinks on us tonight, one called out. You deserve it after that presentation. I have my sister's rehearsal dinner, I said, checking my watch. Their faces fell. Again? Another colleague said, shaking her head. Simone, you always put them first. When are they going to appreciate you? I didn't have an answer. The rehearsal dinner was held at a bistro downtown. I arrived straight from the office, still wearing my charcoal suit. The room was crowded with relatives and Kayla's friends. A sea of pastel dresses and casual elegance. There she is, Uncle Jerry boomed, waving a beer. The workaholic. Surprised you found time for us regular folk. I forced a smile and moved toward the buffet line. My stomach was rumbling. I hadn't eaten since breakfast. Oh, Simone, Mother intercepted me, holding a seating chart. We have a slight problem. The cousins brought their new boyfriends, so we're a bit squeezed. I looked around the room. Every table was full, laughter and clinking glasses filling the air. Where am I sitting? I asked, feeling familiar coldness settle in my chest. Well, she gestured toward a high-top table near the bar. The photographer was checking his equipment there. You can graze, right? You're always on the go anyway. It didn't make sense to displace a couple. I'm the maid of honor, I said, though the title felt like a joke. Technically, yes, Kayla chirped, appearing at Mother's elbow with champagne. But Jessica is doing the speech because she's more bubbly. You know how stiff you get in front of crowds. We just want everything to be perfect, Mother added, patting my arm. You understand, don't you? You're the practical one. I looked at the plate in my hand, then at the center table. Kayla was laughing with her friends, not looking at me. Right, I said quietly, setting the plate down. Practical. I spent the evening standing near the wall, checking emails on my phone. A sandwich from the buffet, growing cold, on a cocktail napkin beside me. My family celebrated 10 feet away, and no one spoke to me. Not once. A memory hit me then, sharp and unwelcome. I was 18, Kayla was 16. It was late at night, and our parents were fighting downstairs. Mom's voice rising, Dad's slamming doors. Kayla had appeared at my bedroom door, tears streaming down her face. Sissy, I'm scared, she'd whispered, using the nickname she'd had for me since she could talk. I'd pulled back my blanket and she'd climbed in beside me, her small hand gripping my pajama sleeve. It's okay, KK, I'd said, wrapping my arm around her. I've got you. I'll always protect you. I'd made up a story to distract her from the fighting. Two sisters who lived in a castle made of stars. No matter what storms came, they faced them together, because they had each other. Kayla had fallen asleep listening to my voice. "You're my hero, sissy," she'd mumbled before her breathing evened out. Now that hero stood alone at our rehearsal dinner, invisible. And the little girl I protected had just told me I was too stiff to speak at her wedding. My phone rang, pulling me from the memory. It was Marcus. "I know you're at the rehearsal," his deep voice came through. "But the Tokyo logistics just collapsed. I need a fix, and you're the only one who knows the codes." "Send it," I said, walking out to the patio away from the noise. For the next 20 minutes, Erie routed cargo shipments and negotiated with a customs agent. "You're a lifesaver, Simone," Marcus said when I finished. "I don't know what I'd do without you. Go enjoy your sister's night." "I'm trying," I lied. The line was quiet for a moment. Then Marcus spoke again, his tone shifting to something more personal. "Simone, off the record, I've watched you for 5 years. You're brilliant, relentless, and you deliver miracles. But you have one weakness." I felt my chest tighten. "What is it?" "You let people who don't pay the price consume your resources," he said gently. "In business, we call that bad debt. In life, it's called family." The words hit me like a physical blow. "But they're family," I whispered. "No, Simone," Marcus said. "Family is who shows up when you need them, not who shows up when they need your wallet. Think about that." He hung up, leaving me standing alone in the cold night air. I looked through the glass window at my sister. She was holding court at the center table, radiant and laughing, surrounded by people who loved her, or at least loved her performance. Not one of them had noticed I was gone. The morning of the wedding, I was up at 5 a.m. Kayla had forgotten to confirm the hair and makeup team's arrival time. I spent an hour on the phone coordinating. By 10 a.m., the bridal suite was a cloud of hairspray and nervous energy. I sat in the makeup chair, the artist applying concealer to the dark circles under my eyes. "You look tired," Mother said from the doorway, her voice critical. "Can we add more highlight?" "She looks washed out next to Kayla." "I was up late handling the vendor payments," I said, my voice tight, "because someone forgot to forward the final invoices." "Details, details," Mother waved her hand. "Just fix your face, Simone. We don't need you dragging down the pictures." Kayla spun around in her chair, looking radiant and terrifyingly self-absorbed. "Simone, did you check the place cards?" she asked. "I need to make sure the head table is perfect. No mix-ups." "I haven't seen the final layout," I admitted. "I've been handling the back-end logistics." "God, do I have to do everything myself?" she snapped. "Just make sure it's done. And try to smile. You look like you're at a funeral." I stood up, the makeup artist removing the cape from my shoulders. "I'll go check the ballroom," I said. I needed to escape the suffocating air. The ballroom was magnificent when I entered. Gold chandeliers casting warm light across white tablecloths. Towering floral arrangements of orchids and blush roses, exactly as the contract specified. I walked among the tables, my project manager eye scanning for imperfections. Everything was flawless. Then I reached the head table. Center stage elevated on the small platform. Gold chairs for the bride and groom. Silver chairs for the parents. Spaces for the wedding party. I counted the seats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I counted again, my heart beginning to race. There was no seat for me. I checked the name cards spread across the white tablecloth. Jessica, the bubbly friend, was seated next to Kayla. My name was nowhere on the platform. Confusion turned to a sharp knot of anxiety in my stomach. I grabbed a passing banquet captain, a man named David I'd worked with before. "David, where is the seating for the maid of honor?" He looked down at his clipboard, then hesitated. His face flushed. "Miss Davis, the bride made some last-minute adjustments this morning." "Show me," I demanded. He led me away from the glittering center of the room, past the guest tables with their perfect settings, past the bar being stocked with premium liquor I paid for. We reached the double swinging doors that led to the kitchen. The noise of clattering pans and shouting chefs bled through. Next to the door, tucked behind a large decorative fern, was a folding table. It was lower than the others, meant for children. The metal legs were scratched and uneven. My name card, simply Simone, was propped up next to a coloring book. A cup of broken crayons sat beside it. 8 colors, half of them worn down to nubs. There was a plastic cup with dried juice residue, a small stack of napkins. And directly beside the table, less than 3 feet away, was the trash station. A large industrial bin overflowing with food scraps and discarded linens. The smell of old grease and stale produce hit me. I stared at the setup, my vision tunneling. The indignity wasn't accidental. It was architectural. It was designed. "Is this a joke?" I asked, my voice trembling with rage I hadn't felt in years. The bride insisted, David said apologetically. She said something about visual consistency for the photos. I turned on my heel and marched back toward the bridal suite, my heels clicking against marble with military precision. I didn't knock. I threw the door open, the handle hitting the wall. "Why am I sitting at the kids' table by the kitchen?" I asked, cutting through the chatter. The room went silent. Hairspray hung in the air like frozen mist. Kayla didn't even turn around from the mirror where someone was adjusting her veil. "Oh, you saw that," she said breezily. "Look, Simone, it's nothing personal. It's just that your dress, the color, is slightly off from the other bridesmaids." "It's the dress you chose," I said, my hands clenching into fists. "I know, but in this light it looks smutty," she said, finally turning to face me. "And honestly, you're not exactly aesthetic right now. You look stressed and tired." She examined her reflection, adjusting a curl. "I need the head table to look cohesive for the photos. My Instagram feed has a theme, Simone. You understand branding, right?" I looked at Mother, who was adjusting her corsage in the mirror. "You're okay with this?" Mother sighed, not meeting my eyes. "Oh, stop making a scene, Simone. It's one meal. You can eat the same food as everyone else. Don't be so sensitive on your sister's special day." "I paid for the food," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "I paid for the table, the chairs, the flowers, the band. I paid for everything you're wearing." "And that's your contribution as a sister," Kayla said, standing up. The wedding dress I'd paid for wrestled around her. "Don't hold money over my head on my wedding day. That's tacky." "Tacky," I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue. "Tacky is putting the person who funded your dream next to the garbage. Because she doesn't match your filter." "Get out," Kayla hissed, her face twisting with anger. "Go do your job and make sure the guests are happy. If you can't support me, then just stay out of the frame." A memory flashed through my mind with cruel clarity. Kayla at 19, getting her first brand sponsorship. A small cosmetics company, $200 worth of free products. Her eyes had changed that day. "Look, Simone," she'd said, holding up the package. "They gave me this for free. Just because I'm pretty. I don't need to work like you. I can just exist and people give me things." Mother had clapped, delighted. "See, Kayla? You're special. Not everyone has to slave away at a desk job." That night, I'd noticed Kayla had stopped wearing the necklace I'd given her. The silver heart I'd bought with my first paycheck, $50 that represented half a week's work. She'd worn it every day for 3 years. "Where's your necklace?" I'd asked. "Oh, that," she'd said dismissively. "It's kind of cheap looking, Simone. I need to upgrade my accessories." I'd never seen it again. Now I looked at the woman in the white dress, the little sister who used to call me her hero, and I realized she'd stopped seeing me as a person years ago. I was just a resource to be extracted. Something inside me clicked. Not a loud snap like a breaking branch, but a quiet, mechanical sound, like a lock engaging. "Understood," I said. The sister left the room. The project manager remained. I walked down the hallway, my breathing steady and controlled. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Just got the approval on the risk assessment you filed. You saved the company $3 million. You are undervalued, Simone. Fix that." I stopped walking and looked at the message. "Value is negotiated," I whispered to myself. I walked back into the ballroom, but I didn't go to my assigned seat. I stood near the kitchen doors, watching guests arrive. They were dressed beautifully, holding champagne flutes, admiring the flowers I paid for. The ceremony happened in a blur. I walked down the aisle, stood where I was told, held the bouquet. I was a ghost in my own funded production. But as the reception began and the MC announced the bridal party, I pulled out my phone. I wasn't checking social media. I was opening the digital folder labeled Kayla Wedding Contracts. I walked over to the bandstand where the lead singer was tuning his guitar. I knew him. I'd hired him for our company holiday party last year. "Hey, Mike," I said. "Simone," he smiled, genuine warmth in his voice. "Great to see you. Beautiful gig you set up here." "Mike, who is the signatory on your contract?" I asked calmly. He looked confused, setting down his guitar. You are. Simone Davis. And Clause 5 regarding client termination rights?" His smile faded as understanding began to dawn. "Simone, what's going on?" "I am exercising my right to terminate services immediately," I said, "due through breach of hospitality standards." "Pack it up." "Seriously?" he asked, but he was already gesturing to his band members. "Look at the signature, Mike," I said, holding up my phone with the contract displayed. "If you play one more note, I will dispute the payment with a credit card company for non-compliance. You know I pay my debts, but I also enforce my contracts." He looked at me and saw the steel in my eyes. He nodded slowly. "Understood. Boys, pack it up." I moved to the catering manager next. David saw me coming, his face paling. "David," I said, holding up my phone, with a catering contract displayed. "Per the agreement, the client reserves the right to halt service at any time. Stop the food service. Clear the tables." "Miss Davis, the appetizers are just going out," he stammered. "Bring them back," I said. "The event is canceled." "But the bride is not the client," I interrupted. "I am the client. I am the one who signs your check. If you serve one more shrimp puff, you are working for free." "Do you want to work for free, David?" He went pale, swallowing hard. "No, ma'am." "Clear the room." I stepped back against the wall and watched. It was efficient and brutal. The band stopped mid-soundcheck, unplugging amplifiers. The drummers began packing cymbals into cases. One bassist set his instrument down with a heavy thud that echoed. Waiters, trained to be unobtrusive, suddenly swept through the room, removing wine glasses mid-pour, taking back bread baskets. A murmur rippled through the crowd like a wave. Confusion, then alarm. What's happening? Why are they leaving? Then the main doors burst open. Kayla and her new husband entered to silence. No music playing. No staff holding champagne trays. Just workers dismantling the room around 200 confused guests. "What is going on?" Kayla shrieked, her voice echoing in the suddenly quiet hall. "Where is the band? Why are you taking the plates?" She ran toward David, her dress trailing behind her. "Stop, what are you doing?" David pointed toward the back wall. Toward me. "The client gave the order, Mrs. Reynolds." Kayla spun around, her eyes scanning the room. Then they locked onto me. I was leaning against the wall beside the kitchen doors, phone in hand, face completely impassive. She stormed across the dance floor, heels clicking with fury. "Simone," she screamed. "What did you do?" The room fell deathly silent. Every guest turned to watch. Mother was running behind her, nearly tripping over her own dress. "Have you lost your mind?" Mother screamed at me. "This is a wedding." "No," I said, my voice clear and steady. It carried across the silent ballroom. "This is a transaction, and the investor is pulling out." "You can't do this," Kayla grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in. "I'm the bride." I gently removed her hand from my arm. "And I am the client," I said. "This is my event. These are my vendors. And I have decided that I don't want to host a party where I'm seated by the garbage." "It was just the seat," she sobbed, mascara beginning to run. "Fix it. Tell them to start again. I'll move you. I'll put you at the head table." "No," I said simply. "You wanted an aesthetic? You wanted me out of the frame? Congratulations." I'm removing myself and everything I paid for. I looked at the 200 guests staring in shock. Some had their phones out, recording. "Dinner is canceled," I announced. "Please vacate the premises within 15 minutes. I turned to the security guard, another contractor I'd hired. "Escort any non-compliant guests out if they refuse to leave." I didn't wait for the explosion. I walked toward the side exit, my head high. "Simone," a voice called out. An older woman I didn't recognize stopped me. "Young lady, I don't know what happened here," she said quietly, "but I saw where they made you sit. If I were you, I'd burn the whole place down." "I'm not burning it down, ma'am," I said, managing a small smile. "I'm just taking back what's mine." The woman winked. "Good girl." I walked out into the cool night air. My heart was pounding, but my hands were perfectly steady. I hailed a cab and gave the address of the Four Seasons downtown. The driver tried to make small conversation, but I couldn't hear him over the ringing in my ears. I checked into a suite, the kind I usually booked for visiting CEOs. I walked into the room, locked the door, and stood there for a moment. Then I sat on the king-size bed in the quiet, air-conditioned space. I took out my phone and typed a message to Marcus. Personal bad debt written off. See you Monday. Then I turned off my phone, ordered room service, and slept for 12 hours. When I woke the next morning, I felt different. Lighter somehow. I turned my phone back on to find 47 missed calls. Voicemails from Dad, his voice escalating from angry to screaming. Texts from cousins calling me selfish and cruel. But the real damage was online. I opened Instagram with a strange sense of detachment. Kayla had posted a video at 2 a.m. She was sitting on the hotel room floor, still in her wedding dress. Mascara ran down her face in black streaks. My own sister, she sobbed into the camera. She was jealous. She's always been jealous of me. She ruined my special day because she couldn't stand not being the center of attention. She's mentally unstable and needs help. I'm traumatized. The caption read, "Betrayed by blood. #wedding nightmare. #evil sister." It had 15,000 views already. The comments were pouring in. What a psycho sister. Sue her for emotional damage. How could anyone do that to a bride? I scrolled through them with clinical detachment. They were trying to control the narrative, destroy my reputation to force me back into submission. Then my work email pinged. Subject, urgent, family matter. It was from our HR director. Simone, we received a call from a Richard Davis claiming you are having a mental breakdown. He states you are unfit to manage company funds. Please advise immediately. Dad was trying to scorch the earth, attack my career, the one thing I built that was truly mine. I got dressed, put on my sharpest blazer, and went to the office. It was Sunday, but I knew Marcus would be there. When I walked into the lobby, I heard shouting. My father, Rick Davis, was at the security desk. His face was purple, veins standing out on his forehead. I demand to see her boss, he was yelling. She's a thief. She stole my daughter's wedding. The security guard, Tyrell, who I greeted every morning, looked unimpressed. Sir, if you don't lower your voice, I will call the police. Dad, I said, stepping off the elevator. He spun around, finger pointing at me like a weapon. You, he spat. You spiteful little witch. Do you know what you did? Kayla is destroyed. You owe her $35,000 plus damages for emotional distress. I owe her nothing, I said calmly. I paid for a service. I canceled the service per my contractual rights. I'm going to ruin you, he said, stepping toward me. I'm telling everyone at this company what you really are. What is going on here? Marcus's voice boomed across the lobby. He stepped out of his office, flanked by our corporate legal counsel. This man is harassing your employee, I said. I'm her father, Rick yelled. And I'm telling you, she's unstable and dangerous. Marcus walked up to my father, his 6'4" frame towering over him. Mr. Davis, he said, his voice like cold granite. Simone is the most competent executive in this building. If you are threatening our employee, you are threatening this corporation. He turned to Tyrell. Remove him from the premises. Flag his photo. He is permanently banned from this building. You can't do this, Dad started, but 2 security guards had already taken his arms. As they dragged him toward the door, he shouted back at me. You're dead to us, Simone. Don't come crawling back when you're alone and nobody wants you. The lobby fell silent after the doors closed. Marcus looked at me, his expression softening. You okay? I will be, I said. I just need to file some paperwork and document this incident. Do what you do best, he said, nodding with approval. I went up to my office and locked the door. I opened my laptop and started working. I didn't respond to the hate comments. I didn't make a crying video. I compiled evidence methodically. Exhibit A, the contracts showing me as the sole client and payer. Exhibit B, bank statements showing every dollar came from my account. Exhibit C, screenshots of Kayla's text demanding money and mocking me. Just pay it, lol, you're the rich one. Make sure you stay out of the background. Nobody wants to see your work clothes in my aesthetic. And finally, Exhibit D. A photo one of the waiters had sent me before I left. The kitchen table with its scratched metal legs. The swinging doors with their greasy fingerprints. The industrial trash can overflowing with prep waste. The children's coloring book. And the name card, Simone. I drafted a statement, keeping it factual and unemotional. Regarding the events of Saturday evening. As the sole financier and legal client of the event, total cost $35,400. I exercised my contractual right to cancel services. This decision was made after being subjected to degrading treatment. Despite being the maid of honor and sole benefactor, I was seated at a segregated children's table in the service area. Attached are the seating chart, the complete invoices, and relevant communications. I posted it to my professional social media, tagging the venue. Then I attached the photo of the table. Caption: the view from the $35,000 seat. I hit send and closed my laptop. The internet is a volatile beast, but it loves receipts. Within 2 hours, the tide had turned. Kayla's victim video was flooded with new comments. Wait, she paid for everything and you put her by the trash? Girl, you played yourself. The audacity must be on sale because you bought it in bulk. Someone started the hashtag #KitchenTableBride. People analyzed the photo, zooming in on every detail. The trash can inches from my name. The children's coloring supplies. The comparison to the elevated head table in the background of other photos. The narrative shifted from evil sister to justice served. Kayla deleted her video within hours. Then she made her account private. But I wasn't finished. I opened the venue contract again, reading the fine print I'd memorized. Cancellation fees, 50% of total cost if canceled within 24 hours of event. I had received a refund for unconsumed food and alcohol, about $15,000. But the venue rental and initial deposits were non-refundable. Normally, I would absorb that loss as the cost of my freedom. But then I remembered the final line of every contract. Guarantor, Richard Davis. I drafted a formal invoice for the cancellation penalties and non-refundable deposits. Total $18,500. I attached a copy of the signed contract with Dad's signature on the guarantor line. I sent it via certified mail to their house. A week passed in relative silence. No phone calls, no texts. They knew better now. Then I received an email from Dad. No subject line. Just an attachment. A photo of a check for $18,500. Clearly drawn from his retirement savings account, I could see the bank details. And a single line of text, "We are done." I printed the email. I had it framed. It sits on my desk now, next to my Project Manager of the Year award. I used the refunded money in the check from Dad to make a down payment on a new condo. It has floor-to-ceiling windows that fill the space with natural light. A kitchen with marble countertops I'll actually use. And a dining table made of solid oak. It has exactly one chair at the head. I haven't spoken to them in 6 months. I heard through former coworkers that Kayla's husband left her 2 months after the wedding. Apparently, he didn't appreciate being married to a viral villain. The social media attention had made him uncomfortable. Kayla moved back in with our parents. Last I heard, she was working retail. Her influencer career never recovered from #KitchenTableBride. I was promoted 3 weeks ago. Marcus called me into his office on the Friday afternoon. "Simone," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. "I'm putting you in charge of the London expansion. You'll be relocating next month. Are you ready?" I looked at the folder, then at him. "More than ready," I said. Tonight, I'm sitting at my oak table with coffee in a mug that isn't chipped. The apartment is quiet. No shouting, no demands, no negotiations. Just peace. My laptop is open to an email from my new London team. They're excited to meet me, grateful for my expertise. They've already sent a welcome package and dinner reservations for my first week. I look around my space at the life I've built entirely on my own terms. For 30 years, I was trying to sign a contract with people who had no intention of delivering the goods. I was paying for love and getting receipts for abuse. But that account is closed now. I learned that family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shows up when you need them, not just when they need your wallet. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the table, especially when you realize you are the only one who ever paid for a seat. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. Safe travels next week. London won't know what hit them. You deserve this, Simone. I smile, a real one. I open my suitcase and start packing. Professional clothes, my laptop, the framed email from Dad. A reminder of the price of self-respect. Tomorrow, I'll board a plane to a city where nobody knows my history, where I'm not the family ATM or the invisible sister. Just Simone Davis, Senior Project Manager, the woman who taught herself that value is negotiated. And if someone won't pay the price, they don't get the product. That applies to people too. I close the suitcase and look out the window at the city lights below. London is waiting. If you were in my shoes, would you have stopped the wedding or sat at the kitchen table to keep the peace? Have you ever been treated like an ATM by your own family? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of justice and boundaries. See you on the next one.